Good morning or good afternoon, second graders. Mrs. Seals here. I'm very excited for our very first science lab of this school year. Now, of course, things are going to look a little bit different since you are not here and not able to actually come into the science lab and do the experiment. So for these first few weeks that we are learning from home, I'm going to be doing kind of a demonstration, which means I will be doing and showing you the experiment. You'll be watching. And then hopefully once we come back to school in a couple weeks, you will be able to come in here and do the experiments with me. All right, so for today, here's our learning target, or what we're going to be focusing on in today's science lab. It says I can identify, describe, and demonstrate safe practices, including wearing safety goggles and using materials appropriately. So we're going to be talking about how we can stay safe when we are in the science lab or doing a science experiment. And the ways that we're going to show we can be safe are by wearing safety goggles and using materials appropriately. That means using them the way that they're supposed to be used. All right. So I told you we're going to be using safety goggles. I have my safety goggles right here. Hopefully you remember getting to use these and wear these a couple times when you came to the science lab as a kindergartner and a first grader. Safety goggles are very important because they help protect your eyes when you are doing an experiment where there are materials that you don't want to get in your eyes, okay? So I'm going to be wearing these the entire time. Now, you don't have to use safety goggles for every science experiment, but just when you are doing one where you don't want to get something in your eyes. Before I start the experiment, I want to talk to you about a big word. Hopefully it sounds familiar to you because we did use it in first grade and kindergarten. And this word is hypothesis. Can everyone say hypothesis? Very good. So that sounds like a big word, but we can break it up. Hypothesis. All right, so you might be wondering, Miss Seals, that's a big word. What does it mean? Well, it tells us right here. It says a prediction or educated guess about what you think will happen in an experiment. All right, so what that means is that before a scientist does an experiment, they always make a hypothesis or a guess about what they think is going to happen. And then after they do their experiment, they look back at the results and they determine whether or not their hypothesis was correct. All right, so important thing to know about a hypothesis is that it's okay if your hypothesis is not correct. It's just a guess. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It's not going to be for a grade. You're not going to get in trouble if your hypothesis is wrong. It's just a prediction or a guess. All right, so I'm going to explain this experiment to you today that I'm going to be doing, and then I'm going to give you the opportunity to make your own hypothesis. All right, so here's our experiment. A couple of the science tools I'm going to be using. The first one looks like this. This is called a graduated cylinder. And a graduated cylinder. New teachers to the cafeteria to meet Miss Mathis. We need new teachers. A graduated cylinder is a science tool that is used to measure capacity or measure the amount of water or another liquid. Okay. I'm also going to be using a measuring cup. This is a science tool. You might also have one in your kitchen. I'm going to be using this bowl. This is just kind of to prevent any spills. And I'm going to be using baking soda. It comes in a package that looks like this. It's used for cleaning. It's used for cooking. It's just a white powder. It doesn't really have a taste or a smell. We put it in foods that we bake, but we don't really eat it by itself, okay? And then I'm going to use this is 1 tablespoon. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get 3 tablespoons of baking soda and put them into my graduated cylinder. Notice how I'm still wearing my goggles. I don't want to get baking soda or anything else in my eye. All right, so I put my 3 tablespoons of baking soda. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my graduated cylinder into this bowl to hopefully prevent any spills from happening. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my measuring cup, and here I have vinegar. You might have vinegar at your house too. It's also used for cooking and cleaning and different things. It has a very strong smell that if you were here in the science lab, you would definitely smell it and probably recognize the smell. Again, I'm still wearing my safety goggles. I do not want to get vinegar in my eye. And I'm going to pour a little bit, probably about 1/4 of a cup into the measuring cup. All right, so when it's time for me to do the experiment in just a second, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the vinegar and I'm going to pour it into the baking soda. And your job is to observe. That's another science word that we use all the time. So I want you to think, what does it mean to observe? Well, when you observe, you use your senses to explore the world around you. In this case, you're going to be observing by watching and looking very closely and noticing what's happening when I put my vinegar into my baking soda. But watching and looking is not the only way we observe. We can also observe by listening. Sometimes we even observe by touching and feeling, and you can observe by smelling and tasting. For this activity, because you are not here in the science lab with me, you're going to be observing by watching very carefully and noticing what's happening. And then remember our target. We are identifying, describing, and demonstrating how to be safe in the science lab by using safety goggles and using these things correctly. All right, so make sure you notice Ms. Seals is being very safe during this experiment. Before I do the experiment, I'm going to give you the opportunity to make a hypothesis. Remember, a hypothesis is a prediction or educated guess about what you think will happen in an experiment. So what I would like for you to do in just a second, I would like for you to pause this video. I would like you to turn to your mom, your dad, your grandma, your babysitter, your brother or sister, whoever is sitting there with you, helping you with your schoolwork. And I would like for you to share with them your hypothesis and tell them, what do you think is going to happen when Miss Seals mixes the vinegar with the baking soda? All right, go ahead and pause the video, and then when you are ready, you can restart it. All right, so I think it is time for us to do the experiment. What I'm going to do is set this up so you can see. Hopefully we don't have any major spills. I have paper towels here ready to go in case. All right, so make sure you're watching. I'm taking my vinegar, pouring it into my baking soda, and there we go. Hopefully you saw that when the vinegar mixed with the baking soda, it created kind of a little explosion. Not a big dangerous explosion, just a mini one. So let me explain why this happens. When vinegar and baking soda are mixed together, they create a gas. This is a gas called carbon dioxide. And in a couple weeks, when you start talking about solids, liquids, and gases, you're going to learn that gases, one characteristic of them is that they like to spread out as far as they can. So when the vinegar and the baking soda were mixed together and they created that gas called carbon dioxide, it expanded and spread out as far as it could. And that's why we saw it come up through the graduated cylinder and kind of overflowed. Good thing I have this bowl there to prevent any spills, right? Please notice my goggles have been on this entire time because I didn't want to get any of these things in my eye, and they kept me very, very safe. And I'm going to continue to keep them on until my materials are put away. All right, So that's the end of our science lab for today. I hope that you had fun. I hope that you learned something new. If you have any questions, you can email me. You can send me a note on Schoology. I hope that everybody's having a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye, guys.